former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua remarks on the day of the launch of the DAPK party is what we want to focus on today. And to be very specific, is on the issue of voting and on the issue of those people who have a real issue with the current President William Samoei Ruto, where he talked issue about the civil servants and the pay slips. For instance, Rigathi said that civil servants who are pay slip holders are 3 million, and each of them has a minimum influence of 2 people. So these count for 9 million people who are having an issue with President William Samoei Ruto. And if not Ruto himself, then has an issue with this regime that is so oppressive and making sure that the citizens are going through a very difficult economic times. Now, if you analyze this statement, we want to see, is Rigathi Gachagua's sentiments factual, or are they just mere political statements? But all we have to agree is that Gachagua is really growing so fast in terms of politics. He's really studying and learning so fast. So first and foremost, I want to break it down to you so that you get to understand why Rigathi Gachagua is saying 3 million of these civil servants have an issue with President William Samoei Ruto. Now, it is in the tenor that we had this affordable housing, which is being deducted 1.5% from the total salary of the civil servants. Apart from that, there is the social health insurance fund, which is being deducted 2.75% from the salaries. Also, we could see in the near future, and when I say near future, it's just about next month maybe, that we will see the NSSF contribution doubling from whatever people are paying currently. And now, this is not the only issue that we are dealing with. The moment the Finance Bill 2023 was passed, and I don't know where we were by then, maybe we were not woken up by this, when there was increased tax on communication. For instance, you could see an increased tax on airtime. And how this works, when you say there's an increase of tax and communication on issues like airtime, it's like if you are using 1 shilling to call for 2 minutes, for instance, if you are using 1 shilling to call for 2 minutes, then that 1 shilling, maybe you'll use it to call for only 1 minute. Or if you're using 1 shilling to call for, let's say, 1 minute, then you'll be using that 1 shilling to call for 30 or 45 seconds. So that's what it means to increase a tax, because the service provider will not want themselves to go into debt. They will not want to incur losses. For them, they want to maintain their profit cover. Apart from that, we saw also the internet cost, increase. And as we speak currently, we used to transact, for instance, 100 shillings. I'm talking about, Safaricom and all that. We used to transact with 0 shillings. But right now, if you want to transact, let's say 101 shillings, you'll have to put away with around 20-something shillings. You understand? So, these civil servants, these monies that are being deducted from their pay slips are making them unable to actually, purchase basic commodities that they need in their daily lives, the commodities that their families need. And we talk about the basic needs that we all know. We have food, shelter, clothing, education. So talking about education, you could see that even the school fees has been increased, and is becoming so difficult for these civil servants even to fund the education of their children, because the income they have is being reduced so immensely and mercilessly by this regime in the name of house levy, like affordable housing, SHIF, the NSSF, all that. And to an extent, some of them carry 0 shillings to their homes. Why is this happening? Because they have to part away with loans so that they may stay afloat, so that they may keep their families running. So when they get these salaries, deductions from loan companies, from lenders is happening, you see, and that leaves them with no choice but to take away a 0 shilling payslip back at home. This is a person who has a family to feed. This is a person who has a family to dress. This is a person who has school fee to pay and maybe a business to run. You understand? So that is why Rigathi Gachagua is saying this calculation could lead to having a total of 9 million people revolting against William Samoei Ruto. And apart from that, we have now the Gen Zs, the people who are eligible to vote. Unfortunately, maybe they haven't taken their IDs so that they could register as voters. But should that happen, then it is very early in the morning that William Samoei Ruto will be taken back to Sugoi. What's your take on this? And now this brings me to another issue. Why am I saying that Rigathi Gachagua is fast learning this political game? So instead of speaking issues the mountain and people labeling him as a tribal kaboon, he now dwells into categorization of classes. And for instance, right now, do you know how many people stand unemployed as of today? So many. And these unemployed people, let us just say even half of them are against William Samoei Ruto. Even this 9 million figure, remember, it is a gross figure from Rigathi Gachagua's side. Let us say that we take just 50% of it, which is 4.5 million. Then we add with the Gen Zs who are against this regime. We also add with those who are unemployed, because here we are talking about people who are on a pay slip having an issue with the president. Now let's talk about those who are unemployed. You know, we went to school to seek education because we were promised heaven. We were promised the way to good life is through education. Go to school, study, you will get a nice job and you'll be able to live your life in a very comfortable manner. So we went to school, we studied, we graduated with various degrees in various studies, competent, completely competent. Unfortunately, when it comes to now looking for these jobs, we see people whose worth are billions and billions of Kenyan shillings are the people who are being employed. In fact, there are people who by now need to have been retired and eating or taking their pension. You understand? But that is not happening. All we see is recycled leadership, because Ruto is trying to bring people who can help salvage the sinking ship, which is the government that has nothing completely to talk about in terms of development. And I like the way Rigathi Gachagua asked William Samoei Ruto when he says that he had a very incompetent deputy president, referring to Rigathi Gachagua, a very corrupt deputy president. And Rigathi told him, under whose moral authority are you calling me corrupt? You, Ruto, whom I know who has had so many cases of land grabbing in court, you, under what moral authority do you have to call me corrupt for speaking out for my people? Oh yes, I'm incompetent. I'm incompetent because I don't want to lie. Oh yes, I'm incompetent because I don't want to follow your corrupt ways that your regime is really pushing towards the polity and forcing the polity to buy. I cannot be forced to buy that fear that you are selling with your cronies. Essentially, that is what Rigathi is trying to, tell Ruto Samoei. Now, there is one person who really needs to tread carefully, because as it is, that is the deputy president now, who was appointed, not elected, Kithure Kindiki. He was criticizing Gachagua, and he says, I told Gachagua not to fight with these MPs because they will finish you. And quoting, he says, niliambia ndugu yangu kwamba usipigane na wabunge, watakumaliza. Don't fight with the MPs, they will finish you. And I have that clip that I'll just play it after this. So, as it is again, we could see that Kithure Kindiki seems to have developed phobia of online criticism. Why? He says, if you are on the internet or you are criticizing him on the internet, then you are the enemy. And when you get into that online space to criticize him, then they will disappear with you. How? He says, mwenye ako mtandaoni ni adui. Ukiingia huku tunapita na wewe. Those are the remarks of Kenya's appointed Deputy President Kithure Kindiki. What does this government fear? Anyway, let us listen to that threat.
Nimwambia huyu mtu kamwambia wacha kupigana na wabunge. Au watakuumiza. Those are, that is the pressure I want. Lakini sio kwa mtandao. Ukiweka kwa mtandao tunakozana. Kwa sababu sasa uko pamoja na maadui wangu. Ule ako kwa mtandao ni adui. So ukiingia huko tunapita na wewe huko.
Well, that's Kithure Kindiki for you. What's your take on this? And I love the way that even though Kindiki has thrown dark shades on Ndindi Nyoro, on Gachagua, none of them has stood up to respond to him. Unlike when Gachagua talks about the regime, Ruto wakes up very fast in retaliation. Anyway, give us your thoughts in the comment section below. If you're watching from our YouTube channel, kindly subscribe and press notification button so anytime that we are live or we upload content of this nature, you'll be the very first person to be notified. Ahmed Khalif is my name for the Unscripted Talks here in Durb Radio. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Kwa timba kali za Afrika, Durb Radio ndio mpango mzima.